I want to bring in my political panel for today. Jerome Laxall is the Labor MP for Bennelong and a member of Labor's Environment Action Network. Cameron Caldwell is the Shadow Assistant Housing Minister. Welcome to both of you. I'm going to start with you, if I can, Jerome. I want to talk about these environment laws, which are a big emerging story. Jerome, just firstly to you, you wanted a climate trigger. Are you disappointed?
No, I didn't want a climate trigger. What I wanted was for our environment laws to talk to our climate and emissions laws. And for the first time, if these proposals do get through the Senate, and that's a big if from looking at reporting today, but for the first time, those two pieces of important legislation will do that. Our construct is for emissions to be dealt with under climate laws and policy, and for environment to be dealt with under its own laws. But they've never spoken to one another. So that link will be in the draft proposal, which goes further than the Samuel Review, which actually recommended not to link them and not to have a climate trigger. So I think this is a good outcome. I am hopeful that it will get through the Senate, because I would just push back on some of the comments from Senator Hanson-Young there and from Susan Ley. The current laws we've got are just, I cannot overemphasise how terrible they are for the environment, how terrible they are for business, and how they did not meet community expectations.
Yeah, OK,
so
but Jeremy, you're saying...
They have to change.
Sure, everyone agrees that they should change.
Yeah,
That's not the debate. The debate is how they should change. It's always the how, not the if, right? So on the how and on the substance, you're saying you're broadly OK with it, but actually it gives a lot of power just to the minister to make these determinations. Are you OK with that?
Well, that's pretty common in a Westminster system.
Sure, but there was to be a different system that was originally proposed, that was more independent. Are you cool with it?
Well, the EPA that's being proposed in this legislation is an independent one. It'll act independently and enforce conditions independently. It'll choose who to prosecute and who not to, and I think that's really important. But in terms of approvals of assessments, it's always the case that the minister has held this power if needed. Most of it is delegated, which is very similar to, if you go back a few months or a few years, I can't remember, when we had proposed reforms to the RBA, and Minister Chalmers was actually trying, as the Treasurer, was saying, well, we want to get rid of that power to call stuff in, and the Parliament said, no, we want you to keep that power. It's a cornerstone of our democracy that the Minister is responsible for decisions, and I've got no problem with that staying. Okay. Importantly, the EPA would be independent, and importantly, we get that link between government laws and policies and environment law, and that's cannot be overstated.
All right, let me bring you in, Cameron. The Coalition, it's been reported this afternoon, is not interested in participating in a deal on these laws. What's your view?
Well, look, we're very early on in the process, PK, so that should be said. But certainly the objectives with this kind of law is to make sure that environmental approvals are done with speed and with certainty. And we know that if these laws are done badly, the economy can grind to a screeching halt. And certainly in areas like the critical minerals industry and mining generally, we must maintain a balance between giving timely and sensible approvals to make sure that our economy is protected, whilst balancing that against protecting environmental values that all of Australians hold dear. So the Coalition will look closely at this legislation.
But is it your instinct that the Coalition should avoid doing a deal on this?
But it's too early to say.
Well, that's not what's being reported.
Well, we will
Are you
take
saying
an
you should
open
keep
mind.
an open mind on this? Is that what you're saying also to the party, that you think that you should deal yourselves in here rather than be blockers?
Well, look, we're not the full way through the process of this legislation being drafted or presented. Certainly our Shadow Minister, Angie Bell, has been working with Minister Watt on this particular piece of legislation, and we will always maintain an open mind, but the writing seems to be on the wall early on here that there are indicators within this draft legislation that would suggest that we probably won't be able to get to the point of being able to support it, because we value speed and certainty of approvals and making sure that we protect the Australian economy and not breaking it on the way through.
OK, so you think you shouldn't... I'm just trying to get clarity. You think you should have an open mind, but you're not getting you're not giving me any signs that you think that there is a deal to be made?
Well, PK, as I said, the draft legislation has only been presented, as I understand it, in part. So in good faith, we would always work with the Minister where possible, and I know that Shadow Minister Angie Bell will continue to do that. But the early signs, I've got to say, that we've seen are that this legislation does anything but provide a balanced outcome, and certainly would be difficult for us to support at this point in time.
Okay, so taking it back to you, Jerome, that means that you'll have to be dealing with the Greens, right? And the Greens have some serious issues in relation to this. Are you going to negotiate with the Greens and take seriously some of their concerns?
Look, the Minister has made it very clear that he wants to get these laws through the Parliament. He's had the same number of meetings with the Coalition as he has with the Greens. But I just respond to some of Cameron's comments there. Like, let's not forget that the Minister has made a decision to broadly base these laws on the Samuel Review. This is a review that was commissioned by Susan Ley when she was Environment Minister. And laws were introduced by the Morrison government, which lapsed in the Senate.
Jerome, I'm going to have to interrupt you because I've heard all those talking points. My question is about the Greens. We've heard it. Like, people have heard, we understand there's a case for change, but on whether you'll negotiate with the Greens on their concerns, does that mean that you have to meet them halfway?
Well, to get something through the Senate, we'll either need the support of the Coalition or the support of the Greens. Right? And this legislation has been stalled in the Senate not once but twice, and I think the Prime Minister down, industry down, environmental groups down want the Parliament to work here, and that means that there'll be discussions with either the Coalition or the Greens.
All right. Well, there's only one other issue that I just wanted to get some quick comments from you both on, starting with you if I can, Cameron. I spoke to Tony Abbott, former Prime Minister, about his book, but other issues as well. And he said Australia should be looking at not just, one ADF person going to Israel in relation to Gaza and a force there for peacekeeping, but actually a broader involvement. What do you make of that? Do you think that would be wise?
Oh, well, look, as a former Prime Minister, obviously we have a high regard for what Tony Abbott has to contribute. But what we've been presented with news this morning is that we've committed one ADF personnel, and in the circumstances that seems extremely modest, and perhaps there's more to the story in terms of what our future requests could be, as have been made by the United States. But we know that this peace process is extremely important. There's many Australians who are very invested in making sure that they see this come to fruition. And we hope that Australia can continue to play a role in ensuring that the peace process is successful. And so far, one ADF personnel doing what seems to be largely an administrative role would appear to be a very modest contribution. And certainly, the Coalition, I think, would look positively at a broader contribution on that sort of basis. But, the scale of which Tony Abbott was suggesting, I think probably at the moment would be not something we would consider, because it's very dangerous ground there, and certainly we need to see this peace process play out.
Jerome, just a quick comment from you. Something broader, is it possible?
Well, look, it's possible, but it hasn't been requested. We were asked to, contribute to sending that ADF personnel, and we've done so. I think Australians would want us to participate in a peace process in the Middle East as a good global citizen.
Thank you to both of you. It's been a good conversation.